everyone, it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio. Today I am sharing with you some gel printing using neon paints and products. This month in Art Joy of Sharing, our art community over on Facebook, the theme for the month is hashtag AJOS Neon Pop. Yes, for this month of July only. We are using the word pop. You know how much I hate that word. Everyone use it. Oh, a pop of color here. We're going to pop this color. We're going to put a little herbs in there for some pop. I hate it. I hate it. But if there's ever something that was going to pop in your art, it's certainly going to be neon colors. So today I'm gel printing. Um, with some different neon products that I have. This first one is some acrylic paint markers. These are manufactured by Marabou and they're called Yono, which means you only need one, apparently. And I just bought a pack on Amazon that has 4 colors: the pink, the yellow, the green, and the orange. You know, those highlighter colors, crazy bright, except for they're in acrylic. I also have some Liquitex gouache in the fluorescent set, and I have a box of Liquitex heavy body acrylic paint in the neon colors. So those are the things I'll be using today. I think I do pull out 2 colors. I have 2 colors of Dilutions neon that I use briefly, but mostly I just am going to use those products. So I had some stuff on my plate already on the 6x6, so I just pulled that up with some neon yellow, green, and blue. It says it's fluorescent. I mean, neon and fluorescent are the same thing. So fluorescent colors, I guess, is what they're called. Those are the markers on black paper, which shows that they really are quite opaque. What I found with most of the products out there with the fluorescent or neon colors, they're translucent, which to me is annoying because the coolest thing I think is that whole 80s look of having neon on black or something dark. And most of these products are not opaque enough to do that because the black shows through the translucency. So I decided that I would be playing, of course, with a gel plate and making some prints because that's a good way to start off the month of using neon in your art. That's, you know, get some gel prints and collage papers made. So I put some of those markers on the right hand side. That's a 5x7 gel plate. And then I got a 6x6 on this side. I put some black acrylic paint down and then I pulled up, I put a stencil on and pulled up the black through the stencil holes so that now I have a place to put these colors. And I used the gouache, the acrylic gouache for this. It's bright, but it's also kind of chalky and matte, which I like because a lot of times acrylic paint is shiny and it wants to stick to itself. So I'm pulling up some of that gouache onto black paper off the stencil and making a stencil print. I have this one drying that has the black and then the neon over the top. And I have another black print that I can just, you know, that's a neutral. And then I still haven't pulled it yet. But going to go ahead and work on this side. This is now the acrylic markers. I just did mark making with the 4 colors. Let it dry. I put a very thin coat of white acrylic paint to pull it up. Now, when you're trying to pull something that's dried on the plate, you need to put a very thin layer, so thin that you can see underneath what is there. So you don't want it too thick or nothing's going to even come up. You want those 2 things to be able to adhere to each other. So the first one I did with white, pulling up the acrylic colors, and then I did one with black. And what I think worked on this is really cool, the black one in particular. What I think worked is that I had white acrylic paint on the back of those leftovers, so there was no opportunity for them to be translucent and be ruined by the black paint. So that worked out really well. And those were my marker prints, which I think are really cool. That's a good way to do your own design rather than using a stencil, but just use your own marks that you make. And so, markers on the gel plate, as long as they're the acrylic ones, seem to work. Also, actually, that's not necessarily true. Also, alcohol markers work on there, and even watercolor markers work, but they are, of course, they beat up. I have lots of gel printing videos on this channel. I mean, lots of them, and all different types of products and ways to use them. So if you're new to gel printing, you might want to look at some of those other, well, actually, there's a playlist. It's called My Obsession with Gel Printing, and there's, I don't know, 50 videos maybe? I don't know. So this one, I was putting down some white to pull up what was left on that side, which turned out really cool, I thought, because I'd pulled it up first with, well, that's basically a ghost print, and it turned out really cool the way the leftovers pulled up with white paint. So that's still that map stencil. And on this side, I had a little bit of the white paint left that I was rolling on the left side. So I rolled it onto the white. I put down a stencil, and I pulled some of that white through the stencil to clean out the stencil holes. And then now I'm adding some different colors of heavy body acrylic paint from Liquitex. I got way too much paint on there. Another fun thing is actually having your underpaper or wipe off paper. It often is very useful for collage too. You'll probably see me using it throughout the month. And then I also pulled that excess paint off the stencil with some black paper and got that. So you can see that the heavy body is quite opaque, which is what I like when I'm using it with a black. So I'm letting that dry. So I decided to grab these two Dilutions paints. They're both versions of orange and pink type colors. And they're thin, they're translucent. You'll see as I put a stencil on there. And then I pulled up the pattern through the holes of the stencil onto a piece of rice paper. And then left that to dry. I think I don't know if I'm going to pull that right away or if I'm going to move to the other side. I don't know. I like to work with two plates because I like to have a little bit of dry time for things in between. So I can work on one side while the other one's drying and vice versa. So now this is the only fluorescent purple I have. It comes in the gouache set from Liquitex. And it's really even kind of magenta, I think. But it's called fluorescent violet. So it's kind of a cool color. And you can see as I post the close-up here that there is some pattern from that pink and orange on that one, but it's really subtle, but cool. I could see using that for something. So, I don't know, very subtle. So then I decide I'm going to pull up this pattern of the leaves and flowers with some black. So I'm just putting a very thin coat of black acrylic paint over that dried paint to pull it up. And this one actually turned out to be my favorite. And I think the reason is that there was some white paint on there already. Some white paint left that didn't get pulled up from the stencil, didn't get pulled up from anything. So that helped those fluorescent colors, those neon fluorescent colors really, okay, we're going to have to say the word, pop. So there's the two pieces from the one with the floral stencil. Now I'm back to the gouache again. I like the bottles of the gouache. They have this like little pointy applicator, which you could actually do some fun mark making with, but I'm just adding some of the gouache to the gel plate, blending it out. This is the pink, the red, and the violet in the fluorescence from the gouache. And then I put down this stencil that is, I think, supposed to be rolls of things, like on the edges, but I think they look like tires. It just reminds me of tires for some reason. I always say that, but I pulled the paint through it. The gel plate is 5 by 7 and the stencil 6 by 6. So I end up with that extra bit at the top. Now that's just one of the extra pieces that has lots of different layers of color, and I put some of that white over the top of it, and it turned out pretty good. Then while that's drying, I've got the markers out again, the acrylic paint markers, to make some more marks and play with that again like I did at the beginning. This time I'm doing kind of a plaid pattern, sort of like a fabric-y looking thing. Green, yellow, then orange, and then the pink at the end. This is just acrylic ink and a marker, so there's absolutely no reason that it doesn't work exactly like acrylic paint. It's just you have a small applicator to apply it with, which means you can do mark making. So if you are planning on joining us doing neon in your art this month, this might be a good option for you to get the markers. If you don't already have some, like if you ever bought the Arteza acrylic marker set, they had a couple of fluorescents in there. There's also inexpensive, there we go. My mouth's not working too good. Inexpensive acrylic paints that you can purchase from, Apple Barrel or one of those. They have some neon fluorescent type stuff. So when I pulled that with the black, as you can see, it darkened everything down, and you still have a little bit of the neon in the pattern of that one. It didn't turn out exactly as I expected, actually, because I thought the white acrylic paint being opaque would keep those printed areas brighter than they actually ended up. So I must have pulled off too much of the white paint. So now I'm trying the fluorescent blue and the fluorescent green. I think the fluorescent blue doesn't look fluorescent at all. Not sure why they call it that. It just looks like a nice blue, kind of a sky blue. But I'm giving it a try. Gonna mix it with some of the yellow and orange, which would be the contrasting colors to the green and blue, kinda, to make an interesting print with this mark making stencil. I'll let that dry a little bit. I did pull some of that off onto some black paper to see how that would go. And this is the gouache, not the heavy body, so it's more translucent. See, doesn't stand out on that black. And I'm going to pull up that with a thin layer of white, because I know that I don't want to darken any of that at all. I want the opaque white in the back on the white paper. And then with the markers, I'm going to pull that up with black, and you'll see, well, actually it's not black, it's Payne's Gray, which is a almost black blue. Figured I'd switch it out a little bit. See what I got. So there's that with the mark making stencil. The different things I got with the gouache again. The fluorescent gouache from Liquitex. And then that's with the Payne's Gray, pulling up the marker off the plate. So it's not as dark in the background because it's that Payne's Gray instead of black. Really does kind of look like fabric, like you should sew a mini dress out of it. So then I just threw some more of that Payne's Gray down, and I had a different stencil, some words. I figured I would give that a try. And that's over one of the pieces of paper that I was just picking up different fluorescent paint from different things. Kind of a collection of different stuff on there. But then I got some words on it, so that was kind of cool. Putting some of this heavy body paint through this time, I think it was. You can tell me if I'm wrong. You can tell by the different bottles. And cleaning it up off the stencil onto the under paper, which is pretty cool looking. And then I'm using rice paper to pull that up. and I don't even put an extra layer on for the first one. Then I do put some white down and pick up another print. So I hope you guys have been enjoying this gel printing session with neon paints and products. I hope you will have fun watching what I do with these papers and with this idea of adding neon to your mixed media this month. I'm sure I'll be doing something else besides that, but I will be doing a lot of this experimentation with these different fluorescent colors and adding them to my usual practices in art. So if you like this, be sure to give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, or if you have a question down below the video. Subscribe if you haven't already, and of course turn on your notification bells so that you know when there's a new fresh video coming out. And you can also join my channel membership for $1.99 a month if you want exclusive content that's only available to members. That's it for me. Thanks. Bye-bye.